Right, a few questions then for you, okay? Thank you to those that have given me the questions as always. First one is, please can you remind me of the followers fundamentals? So I teach this in all of my classes. I'm very much a believer that the ladies should be responsible for their own dancing. So I always teach 3 basic fundamentals for the ladies, okay? So I'm getting up for this one already. Okay, so fundamental number 1 is that when you step back, ladies, you wait with your weight over your back foot. And it should be, ladies, your right foot that you step back with, okay? Other little tip as well is try and straighten that back leg as well. So fundamental number 1, wait with your weight over your back foot. Fundamental number 2 is you are looking to get from point A to point B in a straight line. So you're going on the central lane of that motorway, or like on a tightrope, or like you're on train tracks, those types of things, okay? But forwards and back in a straight line. And the third one is whenever you do a turn or a spin, always turn with your feet together, okay? And then, of course, you step back and wait with your weight over your back foot. Okay, so there are your 3 basic fundamentals. Wait with the weight over your back foot, straight line from point A to point B, turn or spin with your feet together. Okay, so there's the first part for you. Second one, thank you, Des, for the questions as often. What to do with my arms as a male or stroke lead, of course, these days. Okay, so yeah, we're very much aware that as a normal person, we're walking down the street. Again, I'm just going to get up for this one. Okay, normal walking down the street, that's about as much as we're ever going to do with our arms, okay? However, when we're dancing, we're often thinking about doing all this type of stuff if we're in a Latin sort of style. The basic principle is, from a male perspective, is to have them available, okay, and above waist level. As soon as they drop down here, then kind of everything just slumps and it looks a bit naff. So we always want to make sure the arms are above waist level, okay? If you're doing a comb lean, for instance, take the hand over the top, we can take the arm out to the side, and I'll talk later on about hand positions and that type of thing. Okay, but yeah, generally we're using the arms above waist level. That's the basic principle behind it. Next question from Des is, when can I strike a frame pose? Now, I'm guessing what he's meaning by that is kind of how do we hold that position if we're going into a break or something like so. Pretty much depends on the music. If the music is saying stop at that point, then you stop and go into the frame. Of course, I'll just pivot this down ever so slightly. Whenever we're doing the frame position, we don't want to end up with our weight evenly balanced, okay? We're not sat in the toilet. So we want to make sure that we are lunging one way or lunging the other way whilst keeping our back upright. We don't want to tilt over. Okay, so we're always looking to lunge one way or lunge the other. So that's that principle. If, however, Des was on about when do we go into frame, as in we're going to have a ballroom frame, again, the music would dictate that for me. If we're going into a slightly Latin style feel or something like that, then yes, I would go into frame much more than that, or a swing type track as well. If it's a pop track, probably not so much into frame, okay? And the next one, I like this question. How many spins? It's a very simple question, but how many spins should you do? It's entirely up to yourself. Depends on your ability. One of the best tips I was ever given once is how to do a double spin, and somebody said, well, try and do a triple spin. You'll probably fall over on the 3rd spin, but your first 2 spins will actually be very, very good. And then eventually you learn how to control doing the spin. So ladies, always try and do a double spin if you can, if you feel confident about doing it, remembering fundamental number 3, feet together. And that will actually make your spins easier and quicker because you'll travel less space, okay? So yeah, and men, from your perspective, again, adding extra spins in there is fine, okay? So this is kind of the first stage on how to improve a little bit. Are you ready for the classic? Thank you. Right, so spinning is one of those places where you can actually improve your dancing just a little bit. Now, the reason I've mentioned just a little bit is because if we try and improve too much, okay, then your brain will take over and it will go into what we call chimp mode, where you'll simply run away from it. It will be too much. You can't handle changing too many things in such a big way. So just improving by tiny little increments, 1 or 2%. After a year, if you did 1 or 2% every week, then you'd be improved by 50%. Bad math said, don't quote me on that. But, okay, the theory is there. So just improving a little bit each week will actually have a big improvement after a year. We're not in a rush. There's no set time you have to be amazing by. Okay, so always try and improve just a little bit. Okay, so doing a spin, for instance, is one of those places that you can improve just a little bit. So for instance, on a man spin, And again, we do a man spin in beginners classes. You're there, you do one half a turn, and then you step back to face your partner. Of course, you could do a double man spin, or it's actually a spin and a half. So as you come round, you're doing 1.5 spins, and then that makes it look more impressive. And the ladies often go, woo, as they do in my classes anyway. So yeah, adding that, ladies, from your perspective, if you're doing a traveling frog spin, you're coming forwards to this position here, and you go for that spin. 1 spin is fine, but of course, if you then do 2 spins or 2.5 spins, it would be on that occasion, that looks more impressive. And it's just about changing up, just doing small amounts. So spinning is one way in which you can just improve just a little bit. Okay, I won't do the music again. Right, so there's that little bit, okay, for you. Now, whenever you are trying to change something and improve your dancing, let's face it, we'd all love to be better dancers. I still say I'm maybe 40% of the dancer that I want to be, and I've been doing this 22 years, I think it is now. I do it every day of my life, and I'm still nowhere near the dancer that I want to be, okay? So we all want to improve and be the best that we can possibly be, okay? So again, a great tip is try not to improve too many things at once, okay? So 3 things, that's all you need to improve at any one time. If you try and work on more than that, it'll be way, way too much, okay? So that's the first thing. Right, now, mindset. I've mentioned this a few times before on these podcasts. They're all available at my YouTube channel, Richard Beauvoisin. The title is there and how to spell my name, which I know is fun, okay? But I talk about the thirds theory, okay? So again, this is a way to improve. It's kind of changing the mindset behind men are leading or leads are leading, follows are following, and that's all that you do, okay? And the follows are now duty bound to do whatever the lead is saying. Well, that's very restricted for the follows, okay? So the third theory is that the music should dictate approximately 1/3 of the dance. So if it's a very normal song, it won't be that interesting a dance. If it's a more complex song, it can be a more interesting dance. The lead should be dictating what should be happening about 1/3 of the time, and the follows should be dictating about what happens about 1/3 of the time. Now, that doesn't mean, follows, that you are trying to sabotage the dance. You're trying to lead the dance. But what it means is that you are trying to embellish whatever you are doing, okay? If you go into doing a normal dip or a drop, you can do 2 simple variations, for instance, okay? So as you take a step back, so I'll show you this way, okay, as you take a step back, you can do what we call the surfboard variation, where you take the arm out to the side, look down at the hand, and you keep your bodies in a nice straight action. Or you can do the back bend variety, where you keep everything straight on, and you tilt the head back, okay? Obviously, I'm turning to face the camera, but it would be in that position there, okay? You can take the arm down. That's your choice, follows, okay? It's not down to the man. He's simply going to do his lunge to one side, but you can choose whatever you do, okay? Whether you do flicks with the heels, whatever you want to do, try and take ownership of what you are doing as a follow. Yes, the man is leading. It's his choice to create the frame behind the dance. It's then your choice to embellish whatever the man gives you, okay? And for leads, you've got to kind of deal with that. Okay, I dance the follow bit quite a lot. I like playing around, okay? I hear the lots of things that's happening in the music. I want to do all of that type of stuff. And as a lead, you've got to get used to follows being creative. So that's another tip, be creative, okay? Good, next couple of tips then, okay? First of all, follows, focus on your dancing. Okay, I've seen lots and lots of follows recently worrying about what the man's doing or the lead's doing. Don't worry about it, it's not your job. Okay, likewise, leads, follow, you know, make sure you're focusing on what you're doing. So again, don't try and figure out what the follows are doing. That's their job to do that, okay? That's a little bit. Talking about lead and follow, it's always a good way to improve is to try and do the opposite sex, okay, or the opposite lead or follow. So again, if you are a man and you don't want to take part as a class as a follow, there's quite a lot of ladies that want to do the lead part. You could fix at the back of the class, no problem with that whatsoever, because some people aren't that comfortable about dancing men with other men, okay? It's one of those things that we can't control that. So yeah, just fix at the back of the class if you want to have a go at doing it, and you will understand what the follows have to go through. Likewise, follows, if you want to do the lead part, you will then try and understand what the lead has to go through, and that will improve your dancing just a little bit. Haven't played it for a while. Thank you, Jim G. I can't play it too long for rights reasons. Right, other quick tips for you then, okay? New to intermediates, if you are fairly new, I was speaking to a few people at Bath last night, every Thursday, and they were saying, you know, they're just about to make the jump up from doing their 6 weeks up to doing the intermediates. Is there a jump? Yes, there is always a bit of a jump, okay? So my best tip for just improving that, just that little bit, going new to intermediates, Do the whole routine by all means, but just try and do one of the moves correctly, okay? Take one of, there should be 3 moves. First 2 moves should be achievable by all. Third one will be more of a challenge for those that have been dancing for quite a while. So new to intermediates, focus on those first 2 moves. Get one of them. Don't even worry about 2 of them. Just get one of them. That will improve your dancing just a little bit. There's that phrase again, okay? If you are an experienced dancer, you should be quite comfortable with those first 2 moves. Just try and remember the 3rd move and try and incorporate that into your dancing. Best way to remember it, of course, is to do it that night. Otherwise, each time you'll go back to dancing, you'll think, what was last week's? Can't remember whatsoever. Okay, and you'll always talk in that voice. So try and make sure that you do practice what you've learned that night. Ladies or follows, ask the leads to do it as well. Okay, don't be afraid to say, could we go over the class? And most leads will say, we did a class, and you haven't got a clue. Okay, so there's that part. Next thing. Try and go more than once a week. And yes, I do run just a business and I love doing it, and I've done it for a long, long time. But I know when I'm learning something new, if I go more than once a week, I'll improve so much quicker, because every time you go back, if you've just gone once a week, you almost go back a few stages before you then have to catch back up to where you were. So each time you kind of rolling the ball down the hill before you go back up again. Going twice a week, that will keep you going up the hill all of the time. Hello, everybody that's joining, by the way. I'm not going to do a big hello, but hello to everybody. Next part, combinations. I love this part, how to improve just a little bit, okay? And that is, hello, Mr. T. Okay, and that is like last night's move at Bath. Now, we did 2 parts to this particular move. Obviously, I don't have a follow with me, so it's not quite as clear cut, but we did a move. We started off, we did a reverse yo-yo, did lots of turns for the ladies, and then we went into a cleaver. Okay, I'll show you this way around, so we end up in the cleaver. Now, what lots of people do there is they then take a step back, and then they would start dancing again, however they were going to dance. However, what we did is from that cleaver, we then hooked a hand underneath, and then we did a triple spin, whoosh, 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 into a lean, okay? And that is going to make the second half of that move much more interesting, much more of a combination to do. So just think, when you're dancing, you've ended up in whatever position it may be, but what could I do now that's going to add to the previous move that I did? Okay, so it's not that you've learned anything new necessarily, it's more about that you've just increased your combinations, and that's always quite interesting to try and do and have a play around with that. Okay, so talking about playing around, I often talk to people and they say, oh, if only I had a dance partner to practice with. Okay, you'd be amazed the amount of people that actually really want to have a dance partner to practice with. We have our Facebook group, okay? Srog Live and Dance is our Facebook group, or the pages, Srog Live or Srog Dance, whichever one you want to try it on. Put a post in there, say, does anyone like to practice for 10 minutes on a night when we're there? And you'll be amazed the amount of people that would love to just practice, not necessarily just dancing, but actually practicing for 10 minutes. And you can dedicate just practicing for 10 minutes per night with anybody. It doesn't have to be your outside partner, whatever it may be. In fact, sometimes it's easier not to be your outside partner because you don't bring the outside world into it, and you're always polite with people that aren't your partner. So yeah, try and actually dedicate some time in a class night, because that's what they're there for, the class nights, to practicing something. It doesn't matter what it is, and just for 10 minutes, and then you can go your separate ways if you wish to. You don't have to stay with that partner all night, but just try it. Put a post in there, see if somebody else will bite, and you never know. If it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, don't worry too much about it. Okay, good. Next part then, okay, musicality. Again, these are different ways and just how to improve just a little bit. Okay, so in musicality, quite often there are about 10 instruments there or thereabouts that are playing in each particular track. Each person might hear a different instrument that is playing. Okay, so if I sadly use this song again, okay, we have the lyrics, we have the cymbals going on there, there's a guitar going on, there's a piano going on, there's loads and loads of different bits that are going on, and depending on what rhythm you want to hit and what accents you want to hit, you might hear different parts to what your partner's hearing. Okay, but just try it, play around with it. Sometimes you may actually hear the same thing, and therefore happy days, you'll then dance the same piece of music. But just try, that's the main thing, just develop that part. Right, I was down at Salisbury on Tuesday and chatting to a number of people, and they were saying about the fact they were going round and round and round, and they found it quite frustrating. And I was saying, we always teach slotted dancing, and that's what we've done for like 15 years or so. Why don't people do slotted dancing? So a little tip for you here, this is one way in which I'd love you to try and improve, okay, is we're going to use high first as the example. Again, I've done this before in a podcast, so please excuse if you've seen this before, okay? But a normal high first, you step in, you twist out, you lead your partner forwards, you'd raise the hand, and then you would step back, okay? Now, at this point here, what I've done is I've lowered my hand, it's still within my frame, okay? So I'm still within that particular part there. As I step straight in, I'll raise my hand straight up and I'll lower my hand straight down. I will therefore keep my partner on the slot, okay? If, however, two things often happen, okay? First of all, as you lead your partner forwards here, men, what lots of men do is they take the hand out to the side, okay? As soon as you put the hand out to the side, it's naturally going to go back the other way, and then you turn a quarter of a turn, and then all of a sudden that can initiate some circular motions in there, okay? So that's what the men can often do. They take the hand out to the side because they feel that they need to get that to get the momentum to bring their partner around, but it brings their partners off to the side, okay? However, you don't need to do that, men. Certainly if the ladies going back on their right foot, they'll have, as you can see, twisted their body, so naturally as they come forwards, they're automatically going to turn anti-clockwise. Ladies, hopefully you can hopefully see my feet. You can, good. Okay, so ladies, I often talk about stepping back to 6 o'clock. So always, ladies, you're going back to 6 o'clock with that right foot, okay? If you step out to 4 o'clock, then again, you are going to come across and wander across the slot. If though, ladies, as you step back, you go back to 6 o'clock, your natural motion is then going to be to step directly forwards and then again back to 6 o'clock. So if you get both of those combinations right, of the lady stepping back or the follow stepping back directly to 6 o'clock, and the men keeping the hand between your frame, between your shoulder frame, then everything will go fine. You will then stay on slot. Give it a go. It can only go wrong. That's the worst that can happen. I'm running out of time very, very quickly, okay? I did mention earlier about hand shape. Lots of people say, why do we have holding onto the egg for the ladies and not holding onto the egg for the men? It's a very simple reason. It comes from ballroom, actually, okay? So from the ladies' perspective, I'll try and get this right. It's this way, isn't it? Okay, so from the ladies' perspective, often their left hand, okay? There is a V shape of the man's muscular-ish shoulder, okay? With your middle finger and thumb, you push up against that, and then you take your hand away, and there is your hand position, there or thereabouts, okay? If you have the hand clamping on, that's your hand position, not particularly pretty, okay? So having that position there keeps the hand position in that stage there, okay? For the men, the reason we don't have the thumb sticking down is that our hand, actually, if I use my front as my back as such, our hand will go across the back of the ladies, okay, and onto the shoulder blades. And again, then when we take the hand away, there is our hand position, okay. I've only got the crink in the kink, by the way, just because I'm sat down. Normally, obviously, it would be much more of a straighter line. Okay, so that's why we have the hand position. Men don't drop the thumb because we need to go naturally into the hand position behind the ladies' back. So there's another little way just to improve. And the last one, and this is probably the scariest one for you, of how to improve your dancing a little bit, and that is to watch yourself on video. It's quite scary sometimes. I have the pleasure of doing it every day, and I see myself dancing every day. So I know the bits that I look at and I think, that's okay. And I know the bits I look at and go, ooh, that's not so good, okay? Three things are always going to happen. First of all, if you watch yourself on video, you're always going to find something about your appearance you don't like. You think, probably shouldn't have had that pizza last night. I often think that every time we do these podcasts. Second thing is you'll find bits about your dancing you really don't like. That's okay. Okay, they're the bits to improve. And the third part is actually you will find quite a lot of your dancing you look at and you go, do you know what, that looks all right. And don't be afraid about that. We need to gain that confidence about how you're looking on the dance floor. So change your mindset and how you're feeling and looking on the dance floor. If you've gained that confidence and you know when you do something exactly how it looks, it helps you do it. Okay, so lots and lots of different ways on how to improve there. Next month's podcast, first Friday of the month at 1 o'clock. All of this is available as a YouTube video later on today. Also be available on iTunes and Spotify. Please feel free to subscribe. If you can leave comments apparently on YouTube and iTunes, that does help me on the ratings. Not that I care about ratings, but never mind. Okay, so hello everybody that has joined. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and I hope to see you on the dance floor very soon. Thank you very much.